Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the chamber and felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon her. The Galactic Council Hall stretched upward like a cathedral built for gods, its curved walls lined with viewing platforms that held representatives from 647 different species. Some breathed oxygen like she did. Others existed in sealed environmental pods filled with methane or liquid suspension. A few were pure energy beings that flickered like distant stars in their containment fields. She had been standing there for 3 hours while the council debated humanity's fate. Her legs ached, but she refused to show weakness, not now, not when Earth and all its colonies waited for her report. The Supreme Arbiter raised its 7-fingered hand. The creature looked like a cross between a mantis and a tree, with bark-like skin and eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. When it spoke, the translation device in Elena's ear converted the clicking and whistling into words. "The Council has reached its decision," the Arbiter announced. "Humanity's petition for full membership in the galactic community is hereby denied. Furthermore, humanity is banned from joining any future councils or alliances within Council-recognized space." Elena felt her stomach drop, but she kept her face neutral. She had expected rejection. She had not expected the ban. "The reasons are numerous," the Arbiter continued. "In the 43 years since first contact, humanity has demonstrated a pattern of aggressive behavior that concerns this council greatly. Your species militarized 3 colony worlds despite our recommendations for peaceful development. You refused to share your artificial intelligence research with the Council's Technology Assessment Bureau. You defended a mining operation with lethal force that resulted in the deaths of 17 Zephoid raiders, when containment and arrest would have sufficed. They were pirates attacking civilian miners," Elena said, unable to stop herself. "They were desperate refugees seeking resources," a voice called out from one of the upper galleries. Elena recognized the speaker as a Zephoid council member, its tentacles writhing with agitation. "Your people killed them like animals." "Order," the Arbiter commanded. "The human ambassador will have her chance to speak." It turned its glowing eyes back to Elena. "But the core issue is not any single incident. It is your species' fundamental nature. Humanity refuses to accept guidance. You innovate without permission. You question authority at every turn. You maintain independent military forces far beyond what is needed for simple defense. These behaviors suggest a species that cannot be trusted to operate within civilized galactic society." Elena took a deep breath. "May I respond to these charges?" "You may. The Council calls us aggressive, but we have never started a war. We call our military forces defensive because that is exactly what they are. We innovate because progress is part of who we are. We question authority because blindly following orders is how civilizations fall into tyranny." Elena looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as she could. If wanting to be free and independent makes us too dangerous for the Council, then perhaps the problem is not with humanity. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Some species clicked their approval. Others hissed their displeasure. The Arbiter waited for silence before speaking again. "The Council offers humanity 2 choices. You may accept technological restrictions and remain confined to your home system, with Council monitors ensuring compliance. Or you may maintain your current trajectory and face complete economic isolation. All trade agreements will be terminated. All scientific exchanges will cease. No Council species will be permitted contact with humanity." "That is not a choice," Elena said quietly. "That is a cage or exile." "It is mercy," the Arbiter replied. Some Council members advocated for more severe measures. "This is the compromise we have reached." It paused. "You have 30 days to deliver Earth's answer." The session ended with the traditional closing chant, a harmonized sound produced by hundreds of different species that would have been beautiful under other circumstances. Elena turned to leave, her mind already racing through the implications. 43 years of careful diplomacy, and it had all come to this. As she walked down the long corridor leading to the exit, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Elena's hand moved instinctively toward the small plasma pistol hidden in her jacket, before she recognized the robes of an archivist. The archivists were one of the oldest species in the Council. Beings of pure thought who had uploaded their consciousness into crystalline matrices millions of years ago. "Ambassador Vasquez," the archivist said, its voice emanating from the crystal matrix that floated at roughly head height. "I voted against the ban." Elena stopped. "You were the only one. I noticed." My people have seen civilizations rise and fall for longer than your species has walked upright, the archivist said. We recognize patterns that others miss. The Council fears competition, not danger. They have grown comfortable in their dominance. Humanity represents something they have not encountered in 10,000 years, a species that refuses to be controlled. That doesn't help us much, Elena said bitterly. Does it not? The archivist drifted closer. The Council is vast but not infinite. Their authority ends where their monitoring systems cannot reach. There are regions of space they have never explored, sectors they have deemed too dangerous or unrewarding to bother with. A species willing to take risks might find opportunity where others see only obstacles. Elena studied the floating crystal. Why are you telling me this? Because stagnation is death, the archivist replied. The Council has not faced a genuine challenge in millennia. They have become rigid and flexible. They need competition to remember how to grow, and perhaps humanity needs to learn that there are other ways to build a civilization, besides begging for acceptance from those who will never give it. Before Elena could respond, the archivist floated away, disappearing into a side passage. She stood alone in the corridor, processing what had just happened. The archivist had given her something more valuable than sympathy. It had given her hope. Elena made her way back to the human embassy ship and immediately called for an encrypted conference with Earth. When the faces of the President and Joint Chiefs appeared on the screen, she did not waste time with pleasantries. We have been banned from the Galactic Council, she said. They want us either caged or isolated. I recommend we choose neither option. The President frowned. Explain. There are regions of space the Council does not control. We have the technology to reach them, even if it means developing new faster-than-light systems without their approval. We can build our own colonies, make our own alliances, create our own future. Elena felt her resolve hardening as she spoke. They think we are too dangerous to join them. Let us show them what humans can really do when we stop asking for permission. The screen was silent for a long moment. Then the President smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just decided to take a risk. Draft the plan, the President said. Let's show the galaxy what humanity looks like when we stop playing by their rules. Captain Sarah Chen checked the navigation display for the 100th time that hour. The numbers remained the same, but her anxiety did not care about consistency. Her ship, the Pathfinder, was about to make a jump using technology that half the scientific community said was impossible, and the other half said was suicide. All systems green, her engineer reported from the lower deck. The quantum drive is holding steady at 98% efficiency. Sarah nodded, even though the engineer could not see her. Through the forward viewport, she could see the other 11 ships of her convoy floating in formation. Each one carried 5,000 colonists, their families, and enough equipment to build a new civilization from scratch. Behind them, hidden in the shadow of Jupiter, 3 dozen more convoys waited for their turn to make the jump. It had been 17 years since the Council's ban. 17 years of secret research, hidden construction, and careful planning. The project had a simple name, the Long Road Initiative. Its goal was even simpler. Get humanity out of the Sol system without the Council's permission and establish colonies beyond their reach. The official story was that humanity had accepted the Council's terms. The monitors stationed around Earth reported that human ships stayed within the approved boundaries. What the monitors did not know was that those ships were decoys, running in circles while the real exodus happened in the outer system where Council sensors could not reach. 15 minutes to jump, Sarah announced over the fleet channel. Final equipment check. If anything is not perfect, speak now. The responses came back one by one, all green. All ready, all terrified but unwilling to show it. Sarah thought about her daughter, 8 years old and sleeping in the cryo bay 3 decks below. She thought about her parents back on Earth, who she would probably never see again. She thought about the fact that she was about to take 55,000 people into completely uncharted space based on mathematical theories that had never been tested at this scale. Then, she thought about the alternative. Living in a cage, forever limited, forever watched, forever subservient to a council that saw humanity as a problem to be contained, rather than a civilization to be respected. All ships, this is Pathfinder Actual, she said. The Council told us we were too dangerous to join them. They told us we should be grateful for their mercy in letting us exist. They told us to stay in our corner of space and be quiet. She paused. I say we show them what humans do when someone tries to build walls around us. We go over, under, around, or through. Today we choose through. Jump in 10 minutes. The responses that came back were not military acknowledgments. They were cheers, whoops, and one very creative string of profanity from the captain of the Colonial Hope. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The quantum drive was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Traditional faster-than-light travel used jump gates, massive structures that the Council had built throughout known space. Every jump gate was monitored, controlled, and taxed. The Council claimed this was necessary for safety and security. Human scientists suspected it was mostly about maintaining control. But human researchers had discovered something in the old physics archives, a theoretical framework that suggested space could be manipulated directly without the need for gates. The math was brutal. The energy requirements were enormous. 3 prototype ships had been destroyed during testing, but eventually it worked. And more importantly, it worked without the Council knowing anything about it. 2 minutes, the navigator called out. Sarah could feel her heart pounding. She had commanded warships during the Titan uprising. She had flown rescue missions through asteroid fields. She had even survived a hull breach in deep space. None of that compared to the tension of this moment. All ships report ready, her first officer said quietly. Coordinates locked. Safety's disabled. We are committed. The target was a system the Council had surveyed and dismissed as worthless. It had a star, 3 rocky planets, and according to the limited data available, nothing worth the effort of colonization. The atmosphere on the second planet was toxic. The first planet was too hot. The third was an ice ball. Perfect, in other words, because the Council would never look there. 30 seconds, Sarah said. Charging quantum coils. The ship hummed as massive amounts of power flowed into the drive system. Through the viewport, she could see the other ships beginning to glow with blue-white energy. As their drives activated, space itself seemed to ripple around them. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair. Her daughter was asleep below. Her future was ahead. Her past was falling away behind her. 3, 2, 1. Jump. Reality folded. Sarah had read the reports from the test pilots, but nothing prepared her for the actual experience. Space turned inside out. Colors that had no names flashed across her vision. Her stomach tried to occupy the same location as her lungs. Time stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then it stopped. Status report, Sarah shouted, shaking off the disorientation. All systems functional, the engineer called back. Drive is powering down normally. Hull integrity at 100%. We made it, Captain. Sarah looked at the navigation display. The numbers were different now, showing coordinates that put them nearly 400 light-years from Earth. Around them, the other 11 ships were appearing one by one, each one emerging from its own quantum tunnel. Roll call, Sarah ordered. I want confirmation from every ship. They all reported in. 12 ships, 55,000 colonists, all accounted for. The first successful long-range quantum jump in human history. Through the viewport, Sarah could see their destination, a yellow star with 3 planets in orbit. The second planet hung there like a poisoned jewel, its atmosphere a thick soup of carbon dioxide and sulfur compounds, completely unbreathable, completely hostile to human life, and completely beautiful because it was theirs. Begin deceleration burn, Sarah commanded. Prep the survey teams. Launch the atmospheric processors. We have work to do. Over the next 3 months, more convoys arrived. Each one brought more people, more equipment, more supplies. The toxic atmosphere of the second planet began to slowly change as thousands of processing towers pumped out oxygen and broke down the poisonous compounds. Underground habitats were carved from solid rock. Hydroponic farms began producing food. It was hard. People died. Equipment failed. Mistakes were made. But slowly, impossibly, the colony took root. Sarah stood on the surface 6 months after arrival, wearing an environmental suit that still required supplemental oxygen. The sky was still more orange than blue, but it was changing. In the distance, she could see the lights of New Beijing, the first permanent city. Her daughter ran up to her, moving clumsily in her own suit. Mom, they said we might be able to breathe outside without tanks in just 10 more years. Sarah hugged her daughter through the bulky suits. Maybe sooner if we work hard. That night, Sarah received a message from Earth. sent through secret channels and bounced through a dozen relay stations to avoid council detection. It was from Ambassador Vasquez, now retired but still coordinating the Long Road Initiative from behind the scenes. The message was short. 23 more convoys are ready to jump. We have also made contact with the Forgotten Ones, species that were exiled by previous councils. They want to meet. They want to help. It seems humanity is not the first civilization the council has tried to cage. We are just the first to do something about it. Sarah read the message 3 times, then sent her response. Tell them we have room for anyone who refuses to bow. Tell them we are building something new. Tell them we are building something better. She looked up at the alien sky, at the stars that the council claimed to own, and smiled. Humanity had begun its exodus, and they were not going to stop. Admiral Marcus Chen walked through the crowded market district of Refuge Station and marveled at what humanity had built in just 24 years. The station orbited a dead world in a system the council had never bothered to name, but humans had named it Hope's End, because this was where the desperate came when they had nowhere else to go. The market buzzed with activity. Human vendors sold fresh vegetables grown in the hydroponics gardens. A Karathi mechanic with 6 arms repaired a gravity regulator while arguing about payment with a human customer. 3 young Ventari children, their scales gleaming blue and green, chased each other between the stalls while their parents shopped. A Forgotten One, its ancient mechanical body still functioning after thousands of years, examined a display of human-made electronics with something that might have been curiosity. This was the Dominion. Not a government exactly. Not an empire, more like a promise. If you were willing to work, willing to contribute, and willing to live in peace with others who had also been cast out or rejected, then you had a place here. Marcus reached the central plaza where a massive holographic display showed the current extent of Dominion space. 47 colony worlds, 12 major stations, and 6 species that had chosen to join humanity rather than remain under council authority. It was not much compared to the council's 647 members, but it was growing faster than anyone had predicted. His assistant, a young human woman named Rachel Park, met him at the plaza entrance. Admiral, the Cathera delegation has arrived. They are waiting in conference room 7. Marcus nodded. The Cathera situation was delicate. They were a powerful insectoid species that had been council members for over 3,000 years. Their homeworld was wealthy, their military was strong, and their loyalty to the council had never been questioned. Until 6 months ago, when a plague had swept through their colony worlds and the council had decided that diverting medical resources would be inefficient allocation of limited assets. In other words, the council had let them die. Humanity had sent medical teams anyway. It had cost them resources they could barely spare, but it had also saved 4 million Cathera lives. Now the Cathera wanted to talk. Marcus entered the conference room to find 3 Cathera waiting for him. They stood nearly 8 feet tall with chitinous exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their forearms ended in surprisingly delicate hands, and their compound eyes reflected the room's lights in rainbow patterns. Admiral Chen, the lead Cathera said, its translator converting the clicks and chirps into clear English. I am Hive Coordinator Zekthar. We come to discuss a matter of great importance to my people. Please sit, Marcus said, gesturing to the reinforced chairs designed for larger species. I am honored by your visit. Zekthar settled into a chair with surprising grace. The council believes we are here to complain about human interference in our medical crisis. They believe we will demand compensation for the insult of accepting charity from banned species. Are you? Marcus asked carefully. No. Zekthar leaned forward. We are here to formally request membership in your dominion. All 7 of our colony worlds wish to secede from the council and join humanity's alliance. Marcus had been in combat. He had survived assassination attempts. He had negotiated with pirates and terrorists, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. A founding council species wanting to defect was unprecedented. That is not a decision to make lightly, Marcus said slowly. The council will not accept this peacefully. There may be military action, economic sanctions at minimum. They have already shown us what their protection is worth, Zekthar replied. When we needed help, they calculated costs and decided we were not worth saving. Your people calculated differently. They asked what was right, not what was profitable. That is the difference between the Council and the Dominion. Over the next week, Marcus coordinated with the Cathera leadership to plan their secession. It would have to be done carefully all at once to prevent the Council from taking military action against individual colonies. Ships were positioned, resources were stockpiled, and on the appointed day, all 7 Cathera worlds simultaneously broadcast their intention to leave the Council and join the Dominion. The Council's response was immediate and predictable. They froze all Cathera assets in Council space. They banned all trade with Cathera worlds. They sent a battle fleet to restore order and protect loyal Council citizens. But they had not counted on one thing. The Dominion had been preparing for this moment since its founding. The Cathera worlds had been secretly equipped with defense systems based on human military technology. When the Council fleet arrived, they found orbital weapons platforms, shield generators, and a defense grid that made invasion extremely costly. The Council commander sent a message demanding immediate surrender. Marcus sent a reply that was broadcast across Council space. The Dominion does not conquer. We do not enslave. We do not abandon our friends. Any attempt to force the Cathera back under Council control will be met with the full military power of the Dominion. This is not a threat. It is a promise. The Council fleet withdrew without firing a shot. The cost of attacking fortified positions defended by species with nothing to lose was too high. And more importantly, the entire confrontation had been broadcast across thousands of Council worlds. Citizens had watched their government try to forcefully reclaim species that wanted to leave. They had watched humans stand up for their allies. They had watched the Council blink first. 3 more species submitted applications to join the Dominion within a month. Marcus stood in his office aboard Refuge Station late one night, staring at the updated map of Dominion space. They now had 78 worlds, 9 major species, and enough military strength that the Council could no longer dismiss them as a minor annoyance. Rachel entered without knocking, which meant it was important. "Sir, we have a situation." A Council Black Ops team was caught attempting to sabotage the shipyard at New Perth. They were planting explosives in the main reactor. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Casualties? None. Our security spotted them before they could activate the charges. All 6 operatives are in custody. Good. Have them transferred here. We will hold a public trial. Rachel looked surprised. A trial? Sir, they are enemy combatants caught in the act of sabotage. We could just execute them. We could, Marcus agreed. And that is exactly what the Council would do. But we are not the Council. We are supposed to be better. If we want the galaxy to see us as something different, we need to act differently. The trial was broadcast across known space. The Council operatives were given lawyers. They were allowed to present their case. The evidence against them was overwhelming, but they were treated with dignity and fairness. They were convicted, but instead of execution, they were sentenced to labor, helping to rebuild the very shipyard they had tried to destroy. The broadcast had an effect Marcus had not anticipated. On Council worlds, citizens began asking questions. Why had the Council sent saboteurs? Why not engage in diplomatic discussion? Why did the banned humans treat prisoners better than the Council treated its own citizens? More importantly, species began to look at the Dominion and see an alternative. Not perfect, not utopian, but honest, fair, open. Marcus received a message from Ambassador Vasquez, now 93 years old and still advising the Dominion from Earth. Her message was brief. You are doing well, but prepare yourself. The Council will not tolerate this much longer. They will move against us soon. Not with saboteurs, with armies. Marcus looked at the star map again, at the small cluster of systems that made up the Dominion, surrounded by the vast expanse of Council space. They were outnumbered 100 to 1, outgunned, out-resourced, but they had something the Council did not. They had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Let them come, Marcus said quietly to the empty office. We will be ready. In the market district below, human children played with Cathera younglings, teaching each other games in a mixture of languages that neither species had spoken a generation ago. Venturi merchants traded with Forgotten Ones using a currency based on trust rather than Council credits. And somewhere in the maintenance tunnels, a group of mixed-species engineers worked on yet another innovation that would make the Dominion stronger, Faster, better. The galaxy was changing. The Council just had not realized it yet. Commander David Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the DSS Defiance and watched the Council fleet assemble on the far side of the Threshold system. His tactical display showed 147 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything the Dominion could field individually. It was the largest military force the Council had gathered in over 200 years. The Threshold system sat exactly between Council and Dominion space, claimed by both and controlled by neither. It had 3 jump points that connected to major trade routes, making it strategically vital. For 5 years, both sides had maintained observation posts, but nothing more. Now the Council had decided that the system belonged to them, and they had brought an army to prove it. David's ship was one of 37 Dominion vessels holding position on their side of the system. 37 against 147. The odds were not good. Status report, David ordered. His tactical officer, a Cathera named Shiktar, manipulated the holographic display with 2 of her 4 hands. Council fleet is maintaining defensive formation. No weapons charged. No targeting locks. They seem to be waiting for something. They are waiting for us to back down, David said. He was only 34 years old, too young for this kind of responsibility by any reasonable standard. But the Dominion had been built by people who refused to accept what was reasonable. Any communication from the Council flagship? Yes, sir. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, putting it through now. The view screen shifted to show a Velcron Admiral, its crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. The Velcron were one of the founding Council species, proud warriors who considered themselves the galaxy's peacekeepers. Dominion vessels, the Admiral said. You are in violation of Council territorial space. The Threshold system is under Council jurisdiction by right of first discovery and established precedent. You have 12 hours to withdraw your ships and dismantle your observation posts. Failure to comply will result in military action to restore lawful control. David signaled his communications officer to open a channel. Council flagship, this is Commander Okonkwo of the Dominion ship Defiance. The Threshold system was surveyed by Council scouts 300 years ago and dismissed as strategically worthless. Your own records show no territorial claim was filed. We established presence here first. By your own laws, that gives us right of occupation. There was a pause. Then the Velcron Admiral spoke again, and David thought he detected a hint of surprise in the translated voice. You cite Council law? You who were banned from our civilization? We cite common sense, David replied. This system has been empty for centuries. We put stations here. We developed the resources. We have been operating peacefully for 5 years. Now you show up with a battle fleet and claim it was yours all along. That is not law. That is bullying. 12 hours, the Admiral repeated. We will not negotiate with outcasts and pirates. The channel closed. David turned to his crew. All hands prepare for extended standoff. Rotate crew shifts. Make sure everyone gets rest and food. This is going to be a long wait. But David was also sending coded messages on encrypted channels. Messages to Admiral Chen at Dominion Command. Messages to intelligence officers embedded in Council space. Messages to contacts who could get information about what the Council was really planning. The response came back within 6 hours, and it was worse than David had feared. Intelligence sources reported that the Council's plan was not simply to seize the Threshold system. They intended to use the conflict as justification for a full-scale invasion of Dominion space. The goal was to crush the Dominion completely, seize their technology, and either reintegrate the rebellious species under strict control or eliminate them as threats. David read the intelligence brief 3 times, feeling cold anger building in his chest. The Council was not here to negotiate. They were here to destroy. He called a meeting with his ship captains, speaking to them via secure holographic conference. 37 faces looked back at him, human and alien, young and old, all waiting for orders. The Council is not here for the Threshold system, David said without preamble. This is the opening move in a war of extermination. If we withdraw, they will see it as weakness and push harder. If we fight, we will lose this battle and they will use it as justification to attack our civilian worlds. A human captain named Williams spoke up. So what do? We cannot win a shooting war, not against those numbers. We do not fight, David said. We reveal. He explained his plan. It was risky. It required precise timing and cooperation from agents deep in Council territory. But if it worked, it would change everything. The next 8 hours were spent preparing. Technical teams worked around the clock. Dominion intelligence officers positioned themselves at key communication nodes throughout Council space. And David prayed that he was making the right choice. When the 12-hour deadline arrived, the Council fleet began moving forward in attack formation. Weapon systems powered up, targeting computers locked onto Dominion ships. David could see the energy signatures building on his display, countdown to the moment when the first shots would be fired. Then David gave the order. Execute Operation Sunlight. Broadcast on all frequencies. Every channel. Every frequency. Blanket coverage across Council space. What appeared on screens across 647 Council worlds was not a military transmission. It was a data dump. Years of intelligence gathering, compiled and verified, showing the Council's true plans. Intercepted communications between Council admirals discussing how they would seize Dominion quantum drive technology. Secret memos detailing plans to enslave captured Dominion citizens as forced labor. Financial records showing how Council leaders had been siphoning resources meant for member species and using them for private wealth. But most damning of all were the communications about the threshold confrontation itself. Messages that made it clear the Council had deliberately engineered this crisis. They had known the Dominion had legitimate claims to the system. They had known their territorial demands were baseless. They had come here intending to start a war regardless of what the Dominion did. The broadcast went out simultaneously on every communications network in Council space. Citizens on 647 worlds watched as their government's lies were exposed in real time. On the bridge of the Defiance, David watched his tactical display and waited. The Council fleet had stopped advancing. Weapons were still charged, but no one was firing. Confused messages were flying between Council ships as crews watched the same broadcast their families were watching back home. David opened a channel to the Council flagship. Admiral, the entire galaxy has now seen your government's true intentions. You can still fire on us. You have the firepower to destroy my fleet, but you cannot kill the truth. Every citizen in Council space now knows that their government lied to them. That you came here to start an unjust war. That you plan to commit atrocities in the name of peace. The view screen activated, showing the Velcron Admiral. Its crystalline structure seemed to have lost some of its brilliance, as if the light inside had dimmed. You have made a grave mistake, the Admiral said quietly. The Council will not forget this. Good, David replied. We do not want you to forget. We want every species in the galaxy to remember that the Dominion does not start wars. We defend ourselves. We tell the truth. And we will not be intimidated by threats. Over the next 72 hours, Council space erupted in protests. On 42 worlds, citizens took to the streets demanding answers from their governments. 7 species threatened to secede if the Council went forward with military action against the Dominion. 3 Council members resigned in disgrace when their personal involvement in the conspiracy was revealed. The Council fleet withdrew from the threshold system without firing a shot. David stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched them go. His hands were shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. His tactical officer approached him cautiously. Commander, message from Admiral Chen. He says to tell you that you just prevented a war and possibly saved the Dominion. David shook his head. We delayed a war. The Council will not forget this humiliation. They will come at us again, and next time they will be more careful about what they put in writing. So what do we do? David looked at the star map, at the threshold system that was now firmly Dominion territory, at the nearby Council worlds where millions of citizens were questioning everything they had been told about the dangerous humans and their outcast allies. We get ready, David said, and we make sure that when they come again, the entire galaxy is watching. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving at Dominion stations, not with weapons but with requests. Council citizens seeking asylum, scientists who wanted to work free from Council restrictions, families who had seen the broadcasts and decided they wanted to live somewhere that valued truth over comfortable lies. The Dominion had not won a war, but they had won something potentially more valuable. They had shown the galaxy that there was an alternative. And once people knew an alternative existed, everything changed. Elena Vasquez was 103 years old, and she was about to do something she had never imagined possible. She was returning to the Galactic Council chambers, but this time, not as a supplicant begging for acceptance. This time she came as an equal. The shuttle descended toward the Council's capital world, and Elena watched through the viewport as the familiar towers came into view. 60 years had passed since her last visit, when she had stood alone before hundreds of alien representatives and heard them declare humanity too dangerous to join their civilization. Now she returned with a delegation of 12 species, representing the Dominion, and the Council had no choice but to receive them. The galaxy had changed in those 60 years. The Council still existed, still controlled most of known space, but its absolute authority had crumbled. 19 species had seceded to join the Dominion. 37 more had demanded reforms and greater autonomy. The Council that had once spoken with a single voice now fractured into competing factions, each with different ideas about the future. Elena's shuttle landed on the same platform she had used decades ago. Her joints ached as she stood, despite the best medical technology available. She refused the offered wheelchair. She would walk into that chamber on her own feet, even if it killed her. Admiral Marcus Chen, now gray-haired and bearing the scars of 3 assassination attempts, walked beside her. "Ambassador, you do not have to do this. We can send someone younger." "No," Elena said firmly. "I was there at the beginning. I will be there at the end. Or at least at this new beginning." The Council had changed physically as well. Where there had once been 647 viewing platforms, there were now only 409. Many of the empty platforms belonged to species that had joined the Dominion. Others belonged to civilizations that had chosen complete independence, refusing to bow to either Council or Dominion authority. The Supreme Arbiter was different too. The mantis-like being that had pronounced humanity's ban was long dead. The new Arbiter was Aquilian, a species of energy beings that looked like contained stars. When it spoke, the translation was crisp and formal. "The Council recognizes the delegation from the Dominion. You may present your proposal." Elena stepped forward, her voice still strong despite her age. "The Dominion comes here today not to seek permission or approval. We come to propose a new framework for galactic civilization. For too long, the Council has operated on the principle that order requires conformity, that peace requires control, that safety requires submission. We have proven there is another way." She activated a holographic display that showed both Council and Dominion space. "For 60 years, our civilizations have existed in tension. Border skirmishes, economic competition, espionage and sabotage. This cannot continue indefinitely. Eventually, we will go to war, and that war will devastate both sides. We propose an alternative: mutual recognition and cooperation." A murmur ran through the assembly. A Velcrin representative stood. "You speak of recognition? After stealing our member species? After undermining our authority at every turn?" "We stole nothing," Marcus said, stepping forward to stand beside Elena. "Species chose to leave the Council because you failed them. You let the Cathera die of plague because helping them was inconvenient. You restricted technology to maintain control. You crushed dissent and called it peacekeeping. The Dominion did not create the conditions that drove species away from you. You did that yourselves. The Dominion offers a simple truth," Elena continued. "The galaxy is vast enough for multiple civilizations. We do not need to destroy each other. We do not even need to like each other. But we do need to recognize reality. The Council cannot force the Dominion back under its control. The Dominion cannot and will not challenge Council authority over species that choose to remain with you. What we can do is establish clear boundaries, open trade, and mutual defense agreements against external threats." The debate lasted for 3 days. Council hardliners argued for continued isolation and eventual military action. Moderates suggested limited engagement. The Dominion delegation listened to all of it and remained patient. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. The archivist who had spoken to Elena 60 years ago requested permission to address the assembly. The ancient being's crystalline matrix floated to the center of the chamber. "This council has existed for 47,000 years, the archivist said. "In that time, we have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have seen periods of growth and periods of stagnation. For the last 10,000 years, we have been stagnant, comfortable, unchallenged. The arrival of humanity and the creation of the Dominion was not a disaster. It was a necessary disruption." The archivist turned to face the assembly. "Competition makes us stronger. Alternative ideas force us to examine our assumptions. The choice before this council is simple. Do we adapt and grow, or do we cling to old ways and slowly die? I have seen civilizations make this choice before. Those who chose growth survived. Those who chose stagnation did not. The vote took another full day. When it was finally called, the result was closer than Elena had expected. 247 in favor of recognition, 142 opposed, 20 abstaining. The Treaty of Two Powers was signed 1 week later. It established formal recognition between the Council and the Dominion. It opened borders for trade and travel. It created joint defense protocols for dealing with external threats. Most importantly, it established that species had the right to choose their own governance, whether that meant Council membership, Dominion membership, or complete independence. Elena stood in her hotel room the night after the signing, looking out at the Council Capitol's glittering lights. Marcus had returned to Dominion space, but Elena had stayed behind to handle the final diplomatic details. A message came through on her personal communicator. It was from Sarah Chen, the captain who had led the first convoy through the quantum drive 60 years ago. The message was simple. We did it, Ambassador. We were banned, rejected, and cast out, and we responded by building something better. My great-granddaughter starts at the Dominion Academy next year. She will grow up in a galaxy where humans and aliens work together as equals. That is your legacy. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. She was old. She was tired. She had spent her entire adult life fighting for humanity's right to exist freely in the galaxy. And now finally that fight was over. She sent her response, "It is not my legacy. It is humanity's legacy. We proved that being too dangerous for the Council just meant we were too free. Tell your great-granddaughter that the galaxy is bigger than anyone thought, and there is room in it for anyone brave enough to reach for the stars." 5 years later, Helena Vasquez died peacefully in her sleep aboard Refuge Station. She was buried in space, her ashes scattered among the stars of the Threshold system. Representatives from 46 species attended the ceremony, including 12 from Council worlds. Admiral Marcus Chen gave the eulogy. Ambassador Vasquez was told by the Galactic Council that humanity was too aggressive, too independent, too dangerous to join galactic civilization. She could have accepted that judgment. She could have agreed to live in a cage. Instead, she helped us prove that humanity's greatest strength is our refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. She helped us build a civilization based on freedom, cooperation, and the radical idea that different species could work together as equals rather than subjects and rulers. Marcus looked up at the stars visible through the station's dome. The galaxy has changed. The Council is reforming. The Dominion is growing. New independent civilizations are emerging. And somewhere out there, beyond even our explored space, there are other species taking their first steps into the cosmos. When they look for examples of what is possible, they will find the story of how humanity was banned from the galaxy and responded by building their own place in it. On Earth, in the grand archive that housed humanity's most important documents, they placed Elena's original speech from the Council chambers 60 years ago. Next to it, they placed the Treaty of Two Powers, and beneath both documents, they inscribed a simple message. They told us we were too dangerous. They were right. We were too dangerous to be controlled, too dangerous to be caged, too dangerous to give up, and that made all the difference. The galaxy continued to turn. Ships moved between Council and Dominion space freely now, carrying cargo, passengers, ideas. Young humans trained alongside young Cathera, learning to build faster ships and better stations. Council scientists collaborated with Dominion researchers on projects that neither side could have completed alone. And in a small research station on the edge of known space, a mixed team of human and alien explorers prepared to activate a new long-range scanner designed to probe even deeper into unexplored territory. The team leader, a human woman named Jennifer Park, granddaughter of Rachel Park who had served under Admiral Chen, activated the systems. "There are still so many stars we have not reached," she said to her crew. "So many species we have not met. The Council spent 47,000 years exploring the galaxy, but they only charted a fraction of it. The Dominion has only been around for 60 years and we have barely started. Imagine what we will find in the next 60, the next 600, the next 6,000. Her Cathera co-leader, descended from Hive coordinator Zekthar, clicked in agreement. "The Council taught us to fear the unknown. Humanity taught us to embrace it. That is why we will go further than they ever did. The scanners activated, reaching out into the unexplored dark, searching for new worlds, new wonders, new challenges, searching for the next chapter in a story that had begun with rejection and grown into something that transformed an entire galaxy. Humanity had been banned by the Galactic Council. They had built their own dominion instead, and in doing so, they had proven that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from acceptance, but from the refusal to accept limitations. The galaxy was vast, and there was still so much to explore.
The stars shimmered against the black canvas of space as Dr. Henry Miller peered through his telescope at the NASA Observatory in New Mexico. For years, he had studied unusual signal patterns from the edge of our solar system, but tonight was different. The signals had stopped completely. "Susan, are you seeing this?" Henry called out to his colleague, Susan Ward, who monitored the computer screens nearby. "All readings just dropped to 0. Susan replied, her brow furrowed with concern. "That's not possible unless—" A blinding light cut her off mid-sentence. They rushed to the window and stared in awe as a massive object descended through Earth's atmosphere, leaving a trail of blue energy in its wake. The object was unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek, metallic, and at least the size of 10 aircraft carriers stacked together. News of the arrival spread across the globe within hours. Military forces worldwide went on high alert as the vessel positioned itself above the Atlantic Ocean, hovering there in silent display of power. 3 days passed without any communication. World leaders gathered at the United Nations in New York, arguing about how to respond to this unprecedented event. Some wanted to attack immediately. Others cautioned patience. On the 4th day, as Henry and Susan were called to join a special scientific committee, the alien ship finally made contact. Every television, radio, computer, and phone on Earth simultaneously broadcast the same message in perfect English. "People of Earth, the Galactic Veteran Empire acknowledges your existence. Your presence has been noted in our registry of developing worlds. We will arrive at your United Nations building in 12 hours to discuss terms of your absorption into our empire." Panic swept across cities worldwide. Religious groups claimed it was the end times. Military forces surrounded the UN building. And in the midst of this chaos, Susan Ward received a call informing her that she would be part of the 5-person team selected to meet with the aliens. "Why me?" she asked the voice on the other end of the line. "Because you're the leading expert in theoretical alien communication protocols," the voice replied. "And because the president trusts you." 12 hours later, exactly as promised, a smaller vessel detached from the mothership and descended onto the UN plaza. The world watched through countless cameras as a door slid open, revealing tall, slender figures with grayish-blue skin and 4 arms each. Their leader stepped forward. 8 feet tall with ornate markings across its face, it wore what appeared to be a living armor that shifted colors with each movement. "I am Imperial Ambassador Krax Tull," it announced, its voice surprisingly melodic. "I speak with the full authority of the Veteran Empire, which spans 812 worlds across this galactic arm." The human delegation, led by the UN Secretary-General, welcomed the ambassador into the building. Susan found herself seated directly across from Krax Tull in the Security Council chamber. "Let us dispense with pleasantries," the ambassador said. "Your world has 2 options: join the Empire as a vassal species, or face immediate planetary sterilization. Those who submit will be permitted to live productive lives, serving imperial interests. Those who resist will be removed." Susan felt her mouth go dry. "Ambassador, surely there must be room for a third option, perhaps a mutual partnership." Krax Tull's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture they would later learn indicated amusement. "Your species has barely mastered basic space travel. You have nothing to offer as partners." The ambassador touched a device on its wrist, and the room's walls seemed to disappear, replaced by images of planets being destroyed by weapons of unimaginable power. This was the Keldari homeworld. They also suggested partnership. The room fell silent. You have 30 standard Earth days to submit your formal acceptance of imperial rule. During this time, our ships will maintain position above your major cities as a reminder of the consequences of defiance. With that, the ambassador rose to leave, but paused at the door. I should mention, we have observed your fictional tales of resistance against superior forces. Such narratives are charming but dangerous. Know that 43 species before you harbored similar delusions. None exist today except as subjects of the Empire. After the veterans departed, Susan looked at her fellow humans, seeing in their eyes the same mixture of fear and determination she felt herself. "We need to call Henry," she whispered to the Secretary General. "He's been studying their signals. He might know something, anything, that could help us." The clock was ticking. 30 days to decide the fate of humanity. The emergency summit at the United Nations began just 12 hours after the veteran ultimatum. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in the large conference hall, faces grim with the weight of their decision. Susan Ward sat near the front, her notes spread before her. "We cannot simply surrender," said the American president, her voice firm despite the dark circles under her eyes. "But we've all seen their technology. How can we fight something like that?" The room erupted into overlapping voices until a sharp whistle cut through the noise. All eyes turned to a man standing at the side entrance. Colonel Jack Donovan walked slowly to the center of the room, his military uniform crisp despite looking like he hadn't slept in days. "With respect, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I believe I have information that might help us." Susan watched as Donovan activated a holographic display showing dozens of star systems. "For the past 5 years, I've led a classified military intelligence unit studying unusual radio transmissions from deep space. We've intercepted messages that, until yesterday, made little sense." The hologram zoomed in on specific planets, each marked with dates. "These are records of the Veteran Empire's conquests. Over 40 species, each given the same choice we were given. Submit or die." Gasps filled the room as images appeared of alien worlds being destroyed or occupied. "And here's the important part," Donovan continued. "Every species that submitted is now essentially enslaved. The veterans strip mine their planets, use the populations for labor, and take whatever resources they want. So there's no good option," the Chinese premier said quietly. "Fight and die, or submit and slowly die anyway." The door opened again, and Dr. Henry Miller entered with a woman no one recognized. She carried a secure briefcase handcuffed to her wrist. "This is Dr. Olivia Green," Henry announced. "And she might have our only hope." Olivia placed her briefcase on the table and unlocked it with a fingerprint and retinal scan. Inside was a small device that looked like a crystal surrounded by complex circuitry. "Project Phoenix," she said simply. 8 years ago, we detected unusual energy signatures from passing veteran scout ships. We didn't know what they were then, but we studied the radiation patterns and developed this." She activated the device, and a small field of energy formed above it. "This can disrupt their shield technology. Not for long, and not their largest ships, but it's a start." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're suggesting we fight them?" asked the Secretary General. Colonel Donovan stepped forward again. "We're suggesting we appear to prepare for submission, while secretly preparing for resistance." Over the next hours, the assembled leaders debated fiercely. Some insisted surrender was the only way to save lives. Others argued that surrender meant slow extinction anyway. In the end, a vote was taken. The Defiance Protocol passed with 87% support. 3 days later, Susan found herself in an underground facility 50 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with advanced technology and staffed by the brightest minds from around the world. Dr. Miller worked at a console nearby while Colonel Donovan briefed a team of Special Forces soldiers from 24 countries. "Susan, we need you," Henry called, waving her over to where he stood with Dr. Green and a young man she didn't recognize. "This is Ryan Carter," Olivia introduced them. "Former NASA engineer turned private sector genius. He's built something you need to see. Ryan led them to a sealed chamber. Inside were what looked like mechanical insects the size of hummingbirds. Stealth drones, Ryan explained, designed to infiltrate the Veshran mothership. They use the aliens' own shielding frequency to mask their presence. Can they get past their security? Susan asked. They already have, Ryan smiled, pointing to a large screen showing the interior of what could only be an alien vessel. We've been gathering intelligence for 2 days now. Susan's eyes widened as she watched alien beings moving through corridors, working at stations, and communicating in their strange language. We've discovered something important, Henry said. The Veshrans aren't as numerous as they want us to believe. They rely heavily on intimidation and technology. And Olivia added, they have a very specific weakness we can exploit. Their ships use a unique radiation signature that we can track and potentially target. Susan looked at the determined faces around her. So we're really doing this, taking on an empire with thousands of years of advanced technology. Colonel Donovan joined them, his face set in a grim smile. 26 days left until their deadline. 26 days to prepare the biggest surprise in human history. Susan Ward stood before the Veshran ambassador with a practiced smile that hid her true feelings. This was her third meeting with Kraxtull in the past week, each one designed to buy humanity more time. Ambassador, I bring news that the Earth Council is making progress toward accepting imperial rule, she said, sliding over a tablet with false reports of human preparations. However, we need clarification on several points about the transition process. The towering alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, that gesture of amusement that Susan had grown to hate. Your species' bureaucracy is tedious, but not unexpected for primitives, Kraxtull said. What clarifications do you require? As Susan engaged the ambassador in a lengthy discussion about meaningless details of planetary governance, a different scene was unfolding 200 miles above Earth. 3 of Ryan Carter's stealth drones slipped through a maintenance hatch on the Veshran mothership, their synthetic bodies barely larger than a human hand. Ryan controlled them from the underground base, his fingers dancing across a specialized interface. I'm in, he whispered to Henry and Colonel Donovan, who watched the drone feeds intently, heading for what appears to be their central data core. The drones crawled through narrow maintenance tunnels, designed to mimic the ship's native repair mechanisms. They reached a massive chamber filled with glowing crystalline structures. That's it, Henry said excitedly. Based on the radiation signature, that's their main database. One drone extended a specialized connection port and linked with the alien system. Data began flowing immediately. It's working, Ryan said, his eyes widening as alien symbols flashed across his screen. But I don't know how long before they detect the intrusion. Back in the Veshran diplomatic chamber, Susan noticed a subtle shift in the ambassador's demeanor. One of the alien's 4 hands moved to touch a communication device. Is something wrong, Ambassador? She asked, heart pounding. Kraxtull paused, then lowered the hand. Nothing of consequence. A minor alert from our maintenance systems. Susan forced herself to breathe normally. Perhaps we should continue this discussion tomorrow. I know you must have many duties. In the underground base, Ryan was downloading massive amounts of data while Dr. Olivia Green analyzed it in real time. This is incredible, she said, pointing to a specific section of code. Their shielding systems operate on a frequency that becomes unstable when exposed to certain electromagnetic ranges. Can we exploit that? Colonel Donovan asked. Absolutely, Olivia replied. We'd need to modify our satellite network, but we could create a global disruption grid. As Ryan's drones finished their data extraction and began retreating, Henry made another discovery. Look at this population data, he said, pointing to a chart. The Veshrans are far fewer in number than they projected. Most of their empire consists of automated systems and subjugated species doing the actual work. The colonel leaned closer. So they're vulnerable to a coordinated attack if we can temporarily disable their technological advantage. One of the drones suddenly sent back an alarm signal before its feed went dark. "They found one," Ryan said tensely. "The other two are still clear, almost out." The second drone transmitted images from a different section of the ship, a massive holding area filled with beings of various shapes and sizes, all working under the watchful eyes of veteran guards. "Slaves," Olivia whispered, "from other conquered worlds." The final drone made it to the exit point and transmitted one last piece of data before escaping: coordinates for what appeared to be other subjugated planets in nearby star systems. When Susan returned to the base hours later, the team had compiled their findings. "The veterans treat conquered species as resources," Henry explained grimly. "They harvest not just materials but living beings for labor, experimentation, and even food. We've identified at least 3 nearby star systems with species that might help us if we could contact them," Ryan added. "And most importantly," Olivia said, activating a holographic display, "we found their weakness. Their shield technology can't operate correctly within these specific electromagnetic frequency ranges." Susan looked at the assembled data, the proof of veteran atrocities, and the glimpse of hope their discoveries provided. "So now we have a plan," Colonel Donovan said, bringing up a tactical display. "We call it Operation Firebird." Susan nodded, a fierce determination replacing her earlier fear. "How soon can we begin?" 19 days until the deadline," the colonel replied. "And every second counts." 2 weeks remained before the veteran deadline. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the command center for Operation Firebird hummed with activity. World leaders had agreed to the plan 3 days earlier, and now the entire planet worked in secret harmony while maintaining the illusion of preparing for submission. Dr. Olivia Green stood before a wall of screens showing satellites being modified all across the globe. Technicians in spacesuits worked on delicate equipment while keeping regular communications with veteran observers to avoid suspicion. "How many are ready?" Colonel Donovan asked as he entered the room. 63%, Olivia replied. "We need at least 85% for global coverage of the EM disruption grid." "Will we make it in time?" "We have to," she said simply. In another section of the base, Ryan Carter worked with a team of programmers and engineers on a special project. Surrounded by servers and complex equipment, they were building something unprecedented. "The AI framework is stable," Ryan announced, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Prometheus is coming online." A soft blue light filled the room as screens displayed a neural network taking shape. This artificial intelligence system had been designed with one purpose: to coordinate the global defense network during the coming battle. "Hello, Prometheus," Ryan said. "Can you understand me?" "Affirmative," a calm voice replied. "I am operational and ready to serve. Current mission: assist in Earth's defense against veteran invasion forces." Ryan looked at his team with tired but triumphant eyes. "It works." Meanwhile, in a secure hangar nearby, Colonel Donovan addressed 200 soldiers from nations that had been enemies just weeks before. These elite fighters stood together now, unified by a common threat. "You've all been chosen for your exceptional skills," the colonel told them. "Each of you represents the best your countries have to offer. You'll be the first humans to engage the veterans directly." He activated a holographic display showing alien physiology and equipment. "These are your targets. Memorize their vulnerabilities. When the EM grid drops their shields, you'll have a short window to strike." The soldiers studied the information with intense focus. Among them was Sergeant Alan Parker, a Marine who had lost his family in a tornado the previous year. He had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. "Sir," Alan asked, "what are our odds of success?" Colonel Donovan looked him in the eye. "Better than they think we have." In the medical wing, Dr. Henry Miller made a surprising discovery. He had been studying samples of veteran tissue obtained by the stealth drones, looking for biological weaknesses. "Susan, come see this," he called excitedly as Susan Ward entered the lab. He showed her a Petri dish where veteran tissue cells were rapidly breaking down. "What am I looking at?" she asked. I exposed the sample to various sound frequencies. This particular vibration minus 438 Hz causes their cellular structure to lose cohesion. Susan's eyes widened. You're saying we can incapacitate them with sound? Not kill them, but yes, render them temporarily helpless. Something about this frequency disrupts their neural pathways. In the command center, the team gathered to review their progress. Operation Firebird now had multiple components: the satellite EM disruption grid, the Prometheus I coordinator, the Special Forces strike teams, and now a sonic weapon. This is starting to feel possible, Susan said. It's more than possible, Colonel Donovan replied. But we need to discuss something important. He brought up images of Veshran weapons capabilities. Once we start this, there's no going back. They will retaliate with everything they have. Millions could die before we win, if we win. The room fell silent as everyone considered the stakes. What's the alternative? Dr. Green asked. Generations of slavery, watching our planet being stripped bare. Ryan spoke up from his workstation. Prometheus has run simulations. Even with high casualties, humanity survives by fighting. Submission leads to extinction within 3 generations. Colonel Donovan looked at each of them in turn. Then we proceed. But remember what we're fighting for. Not just to kill Veshrans, but to save humanity. Susan nodded. We answer their fire with fire of our own. 13 days remained until the deadline. The clock was ticking, and the greatest gamble in human history was about to begin. 3 days before the deadline, Susan Ward sat across from Ambassador Crackstull in what had become their regular meeting room. She passed him a tablet showing false documents of Earth's surrender preparations. As you can see, Ambassador, we are on schedule to formally accept imperial rule, she said with practiced calm. The world leaders just need to finalize a few details about the transition government. The Veshran studied her with all 4 eyes. Something in his posture had changed since their last meeting. Interesting, he said, placing the tablet down slowly. Yet our sensors detected unusual activity at several of your satellite installations yesterday. Susan's heart pounded, but her face remained neutral. Routine maintenance, I believe. Is there a problem? Before the ambassador could answer, a Veshran officer burst into the room, speaking rapidly in their clicking language. Crackstull rose to his full height, all 4 arms tensing. It seems, Ms. Ward, that your species has made a grave error in judgment. Across the globe, alarms began to sound. The Veshran mothership had deployed smaller attack vessels that now descended toward major military installations. The aliens had discovered Operation Firebird. In Chicago, massive energy beams cut through skyscrapers, turning glass and steel into molten rivers. Sydney's harbor boiled as Veshran weapons targeted the hidden submarine base beneath its waters. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, chaos erupted as reports flooded in. They know, Colonel Donovan shouted, rushing into the control room. Someone leaked information, or they detected our preparations. Dr. Green's fingers flew across her control panel. The EM grid is only at 78% capacity. We're not ready. Ryan Carter worked frantically to bring Prometheus fully online. The AI needs another 12 hours for full integration with our defense systems. A technician reported, Veshran ground forces are deploying in Asia, Europe, and North America. They're securing strategic locations. On the main screen, they watched as Susan was roughly seized by Veshran guards and dragged from the meeting room. They've taken Susan, Henry said, his face pale. Colonel Donovan made a swift decision. We have no choice. We launch now with what we have. He turned to Dr. Green. Activate the grid. But it's not at full capacity, she protested. It's now or never. On his screen, Ryan saw a message from Prometheus. I can compensate for grid deficiencies by rerouting satellite paths. Probability of success, 63%. Do it, Ryan told the AI. Across Earth, hidden defense systems prepared to activate. Meanwhile, the Veshrans continued their assault, believing they had caught humanity unprepared. In orbit, Susan was brought aboard the veteran command ship. Ambassador Crax-Tull met her in what appeared to be a control center. "Did you truly believe we wouldn't detect your pitiful resistance plans?" he asked. "We have conquered 43 species more advanced than yours." Susan said nothing, scanning the room for information that might help her people. "You will watch as we demonstrate what happens to those who defy the Empire," Crax-Tull continued. Chicago was just the beginning. On a large display, Susan saw veteran troops advancing through Washington, D.C., but something strange was happening. The aliens were moving slower than before, struggling against Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Colonel Donovan had noticed this too. From a forward command post, he watched veteran soldiers laboring to breathe Earth's air. "Our atmosphere affects them," he told his team. "They're vulnerable outside their environmental suits." He ordered his special forces to engage, and for the first time, humans fought veterans directly. Despite advanced alien weapons, the special forces had one key advantage. They were fighting on home ground. Back at the command center, Henry made a desperate call. "We need to accelerate the Firebird protocol. Susan is captive on their command ship. Once we activate the EM grid, that ship will be hit too." "We have no choice," Dr. Green replied grimly. "Millions are dying every hour we wait." Ryan looked up from his console. "Prometheus says we'll have one chance. When the grid activates, it will create a resonance cascade through their fleet. The disruption will last 90 seconds at most." Colonel Donovan's voice came through their communications. "Then that's all the time we need." Dr. Green began the final countdown. Across the world, hidden satellites aligned into their attack positions. "May God help us all," she whispered as she pressed the activation command. A pulse of invisible energy swept across the planet as the EM disruption grid activated. For a brief moment, everything electronic on Earth flickered. Then, high above, the veteran ships shuddered as their shields failed. In the command center, Prometheus spoke through every speaker. "Grid functioning at 78% capacity. Shield disruption confirmed. 90-second window initiated. Coordinating global counterattack." All across Earth, hidden weapons platforms emerged from their disguises. Communication satellites revealed themselves as orbital defense stations. Underground silos opened to launch specialized missiles designed to target veteran vulnerabilities. Colonel Donovan led his special forces toward the largest veteran ground deployment in North America. Each soldier carried weapons modified to emit the 438 Hz frequency that Dr. Miller had discovered. As they approached, they activated the sonic disruptors. The effect was immediate. Veteran soldiers collapsed, their forearms clutching at their heads. Those that managed to remain standing fired wildly, unable to aim properly. "It works," Sergeant Alan Parker shouted over the comm system. "The sound frequency is working." Aboard the veteran command ship, chaos erupted as systems failed and alarms blared. Susan Ward found herself momentarily forgotten as her captors rushed to respond to the crisis. She slipped away from her guards and ducked into a service corridor she had spotted earlier. "I need to find their communication hub," she whispered to herself, using her diplomatic training to stay calm despite the terror flooding through her. Back on Earth, Dr. Green monitored the grid's performance. 60 seconds of disruption remaining, she announced. Ryan Carter worked with Prometheus to maximize the effectiveness of their attack. "Prometheus has hacked into the veteran communication systems," he reported, "broadcasting their vulnerabilities to all Earth forces now." On screens across the world, tactical information appeared, showing exactly where to hit the alien vessels. In orbit, what appeared to be ordinary weather satellites suddenly fired concentrated energy beams at the vulnerable veteran ships. The smaller attack vessels, caught without their shields, exploded or spun out of control. Dr. Miller made another discovery as he analyzed real-time data from the battles. "Water," he shouted. "Their skin burns on contact with water. It's like acid to them." This information was immediately relayed to ground forces, who began using fire hydrants and water cannons as weapons against the invaders. In Washington, D.C., firefighters turned their hoses on the Veshran troops. The aliens screamed in pain as the water touched them, their skin smoking and dissolving. On the Veshran command ship, Susan found an access terminal. Using knowledge gleaned from Ryan's drone intelligence, she managed to access the ship's internal systems. She located the communications hub and made her way toward it. 30 seconds of disruption remaining. Dr. Green's voice echoed through the command center. Colonel Donovan's forces had secured key positions around the main Veshran landing zone. "We need more time," he radioed. "We don't have it," Ryan replied. "Once their shields reactivate, we'll lose our advantage." Prometheus offered a solution. Initiating secondary grid protocol. Calculating optimal satellite reconfiguration. The AI had discovered a way to extend the disruption by another 30 seconds by sacrificing half the satellite network. "Do it," Dr. Green ordered. Susan reached the communications hub on the Veshran ship. Inside, frantic aliens worked to restore their systems. She remained hidden, watching and listening, gathering critical intelligence about their command structure. She overheard a senior officer speaking in English. "The Imperial fleet has been notified. Main battle group arriving in 6 hours. These humans will pay for their resistance." Across Earth, the counterattack continued with surprising success. Humanity's coordinated assault had caught the Veshrans unprepared. They had expected easy submission, not organized resistance. From his command post, Colonel Donovan watched as a Veshran ship crashed into the Potomac River. "We're actually winning," he said in disbelief. But then Prometheus delivered sobering news. Alert. Multiple spatial distortions detected at edge of solar system. Analysis indicates large-scale fleet arrival imminent. The real battle was just beginning. The Veshran Empire was sending its main force. 5 hours after Earth's initial counterattack, the planet experienced an uneasy calm. Veshran forces had retreated to defensive positions, waiting for reinforcements. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. "We've won the first battle, but the war is just beginning," Colonel Donovan said, pointing to long-range sensor data. "The main Veshran fleet will arrive within the hour." On the main screen, hundreds of massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, dwarfing the initial invasion force. "Our EM grid is at 20% capacity," Dr. Green reported grimly. "We've lost too many satellites. We can't generate another full-scale disruption." Ryan Carter looked up from his console. "Prometheus estimates that the incoming fleet has enough firepower to destroy Earth's surface completely." The room fell silent. "Then we've only delayed the inevitable," the American president said quietly. Dr. Miller stood. "Not necessarily. Susan is still on their command ship. If she can transmit their command codes, we might have a chance." As if on cue, a communication came through on a secure channel. "This is Susan Ward," her voice crackled. "I've accessed their internal network, sending data now." Information began streaming into the Earth's defense systems, Veshran fleet formations, communication protocols, and most importantly, the command authentication codes. "She did it," Ryan whispered, watching as Prometheus absorbed the new data. Meanwhile, Dr. Green received an unexpected message from a secure facility on the moon. "Project Phoenix has more than one phase," she announced. "My team on the lunar base has completed the network of fusion-powered EM cannons. They were built in secret over the past 5 years." "Why weren't we informed?" Colonel Donovan demanded. "Compartmentalization," she replied. "In case the Veshrans captured any of us. The lunar cannons can generate an EM pulse 10 times stronger than our satellite grid, but they only have enough power for one shot." On the Veshran command ship, Susan had been discovered. She ran through the alien corridors, pursued by guards. She ducked into what appeared to be a hangar bay filled with smaller vessels. "I need to get back to Earth," she thought, eyeing the shuttle. To her surprise, she found she could operate the craft using the knowledge gained from studying drone footage. The shuttle engines roared to life as veteran guards burst into the hangar. Susan launched the vessel just as energy beams sizzled past. As Earth prepared for the final battle, Colonel Donovan's forces used captured veteran technology to mount a desperate space defense. Brave pilots flew modified aircraft equipped with alien weapons, forming Earth's first true space force. From Mars, a surprise transmission came through. "This is Mars Colony. We hear you're in trouble. We've modified our mining lasers into makeshift weapons. We'll hit them from behind when they focus on Earth." Similar messages arrived from mining stations in the asteroid belt. Humanity's children in space were joining the fight. The veteran main fleet arrived, taking position around Earth. Their supreme commander opened a channel to all of Earth's communications. "Your resistance is noted but futile. Surrender now, or we will reduce your world to ash." In response, humanity unleashed everything it had. The lunar EM cannons fired, temporarily disabling the nearest veteran ships. Colonel Donovan's space fighters attacked the vulnerable vessels, while Ryan Carter deployed a virus Susan had smuggled out, a code that turned the veterans' automated systems against them. From Mars and the asteroid belt, mining lasers and improvised weapons struck the veteran rear formations. The battle spread across the solar system, a desperate last stand against overwhelming odds. Dr. Miller worked frantically in his lab, using the water discovery to develop a more effective weapon. "If their skin reacts this way to water, imagine what their internal systems would do," he muttered. In orbit, Susan's stolen shuttle rejoined Earth's defenders. Her voice came through on the command channel. "I've learned something important. The Imperial Overlord is on the flagship. He never leaves the Empire's core worlds. He's here to witness our subjugation personally." Colonel Donovan immediately understood the opportunity. If we capture him, the entire Empire might stand down. Susan finished. The battle reached its climax. Human fighters, operating in space for the first time, suffered massive casualties, but fought with extraordinary courage. The veteran fleet, despite its technological superiority, found itself attacked from all sides by a species that refused to surrender. In the command center, Prometheus calculated their odds. Probability of victory, 12.7%. Probability of species survival, 38.2%. Dr. Green looked at the AI's assessment and said, "The battle for Earth raged for 27 hours. Space around the planet filled with debris from destroyed ships, both human and veteran. The Imperial fleet, despite its overwhelming firepower, found itself in an unexpected position. They were losing." Colonel Donovan led a final desperate mission. Using information from Susan, he assembled a small team aboard a captured veteran vessel. Their target, the Imperial flagship, and the Overlord himself. "Remember," he told his team as they approached the massive ship, "we need him alive." Using the command code Susan had stolen, they docked without raising alarms. The small team moved through the flagship's corridors, encountering surprisingly little resistance. Most of the crew had been deployed to other vessels to replace casualties. Meanwhile, Dr. Miller's water-based weapon proved devastatingly effective. Missiles containing nothing more than pressurized water breached veteran hulls, the liquid spreading through their ships and causing chaos as it burned through alien flesh and equipment. In the command center, Ryan worked with Prometheus to coordinate Earth's forces. The AI had evolved beyond its original programming, developing strategies no human would have conceived. "New attack pattern identified," Prometheus announced, redirecting Mars colony lasers to focus on these junction points. On the main screen, they watched as precisely targeted mining lasers cut through the connection points between veteran fleet sections, isolating and disabling them. Dr. Green monitored the battle from the lunar base, where her team had managed to recharge the EM cannons for one final pulse. "Ready to fire on your command," she radioed to Ryan. "Hold for Colonel Donovan's signal," he replied. Aboard the veteran flagship, Donovan's team fought their way to the command deck. Using the sonic disruptors, they incapacitated the guards without killing them. When they reached the central chamber, they found themselves face to face with the Imperial Overlord. Unlike the other veterans, the Overlord stood nearly 10 feet tall, with 6 arms instead of 4 and skin covered in ornate patterns. He watched the humans enter with an expression that might have been curiosity. "Interesting," he said in perfect English. "No species has ever reached this far." "It's over," Colonel Donovan said, training his weapon on the Overlord. "Order your fleet to stand down." To everyone's surprise, the Overlord laughed, a strange, rattling sound. "Perhaps you are worthy of something better than subjugation after all." Back on Earth, the command center received an unexpected transmission. The Veshran fleet was ceasing fire and pulling back to defensive positions. "What's happening?" Susan asked. Ryan checked the data. "Colonel Donovan has the Overlord. They're bringing him to the lunar base." Hours later, world leaders gathered at the lunar facility to face the captured ruler of the Veshran Empire. Despite being restrained, the Overlord maintained an air of dignity. "For 10,000 years, my empire has grown without meaningful resistance," he said. "You are the first to fight back effectively. The first to capture me. The first to earn respect." "We didn't want war," the American president responded. "You demanded our submission." "It is the way of the Empire," the Overlord replied. "But perhaps it is time for the Empire to evolve." The negotiations lasted for days. With the Overlord as their prisoner, humanity held a powerful bargaining chip. Dr. Miller's research into Veshran biology became another, as he developed treatments that could protect them from water's harmful effects. Eventually, terms were reached. The Veshran Empire would withdraw from Earth's solar system, establishing it as a sovereign territory. In exchange, humans would share their unique adaptability and scientific approaches. More importantly, Earth established contact with other subjugated species, forming the beginning of a new alliance. The Overlord, seeing the potential benefits of cooperation over conquest, agreed to reforms that would gradually free the enslaved worlds. 1 month after the battle ended, Susan Ward led a diplomatic mission to the Veshran homeworld, the first human to set foot on an alien planet. She carried with her humanity's terms for lasting peace. Colonel Donovan remained on Earth, overseeing the integration of captured alien technology with human defense systems. "Next time someone comes knocking," he told his international team, "we'll be ready from the start." Ryan Carter and Dr. Green focused on developing interstellar travel based on Veshran designs. The first human-built starship was already under construction, scheduled to launch within a year. Dr. Miller continued his research, now with willing Veshran subjects who sought to understand humanity's unique biology in return. In what had once been the Rocky Mountain Command Center, now transformed into Earth's new space defense headquarters, a simple plaque was installed. It bore words that had become humanity's unofficial motto. The Empire demanded submission. Humanity answered with fire. And in that fire, a new future was forged.